Hello guys, welcome to this little update and a little gift from me for Christmas. I'm giving away 40% off Hair Strand Designer and other assets on my Artstation store over the next couple of days up until Boxing Day midnight, so basically until the midnight of 26th. So I'm just going to show you some things here in Hair Strand Designer that I've been doing and maybe just a general workflow. So something that's changed is when you move the mouse around, it actually reduces the number of strands being displayed, just as a temporary measure to get some of that frame rate back. Hair Strand Designer does run very slow, it's true, but the payoff is fine, because at the end of the day, when you start using some things, it's going to optimize this display dynamically when you're in Dyno mode, which is default, right? And it's just giving you an idea of what the hair is going to look like anyway. It's not going to be anything final, and the only way to know that is to actually render something. So I usually play around with the color map, and what you can do actually is change the number of strands right down to 0, right, just from the bat. Then click on one and click on it again. That's going to flash because you basically isolated this one itself, and you can basically just put this straight up into like fast mode if you want, slow mode, and it will also use the optimization feature that when you move the mouse around, it's gonna kind of reduce the number of strands there, just as a temporary measure to get some performance back. So I've got so many strands here, let's say 71 strands, right? And I'll just use the mouse wheel up to increase the number of strands being displayed here, right? So it's got to 60 strands. And when I let go of the mouse, it gradually shows me all of those. And yeah, it's hitting the frame rate. As you can see, this is a little kind of way of representing the frame rate. If I move around or I hold down the mouse button in Dyno mode, basically it's going to be much faster. Dyno mode's the best mode in this, to be honest, because when you use the mouse button, it just kind of temporarily optimizes, and you're not really focused too much on that. At that point, you just maybe get the length right and then just let it go, and you see what it's doing. Tapering, let it go, you get an idea, bit of spacing, and then you can use your jitter and variation. So once you've got one the way you want it, I'm just going to let go just to let it build up. Once you get one the way you want it, you can render that map and have a look to see, okay, that's kind of what you expected based on the previewer. The previewer is not one-to-one. That's something that I've always stressed from the start. There used to be no previewer. You'd only be able to generate based on the algorithm and just kind of stare at a blank screen for a while. But eventually the previewer made sense. You know, I have to have some way of representing what's going on, and it had to be one-to-one with what you're going to get, which took a while as well. There's a lot of things I'm still discovering as a programmer. I'm not a specialist in programming. I'm definitely a generalist all round. I do a bit of modeling and texturing and shaders and 2D art and GUI stuff and teaching and million things. I'm constantly making projects, quite diverse, and I found this to be a solution quick enough for me as I was trying to follow a tutorial on making hair strands in Max, and I had a problem with the renderer not working right and some things that were just, they weren't good, you know, it wasn't helping my productivity. So basically I made this. So now I'm just switching between each set. Now I can see both, let it dance around, and basically, yeah, it's building up more strands there. So I'm wondering if you guys don't like this effect, right, where you're moving the mouse around, you have to wait, right, to see more strands. Now you can kind of reduce the number of strands that it displays using the mouse wheel or page down, right, and it will be a little bit faster. right? But it's constantly jumping around. And I don't know if I like it, but someone was complaining that it runs really slow, and this was one solution to get it back. It's not perfect, right? It's by far perfect. I'd rather it stay the way it is now. You can just click medium mode and basically that'll go away. Now I'll show you the thing that actually makes this happen, just to give you a little bit of insight of how I work. I basically have an object that follows the mouse called motion detector, right? And as it moves towards the mouse, it basically gives us all our strands back, and so every step it just makes its way towards the mouse position, right? And then there's this distance to mouse that I detect. So if I search for that, there is a little detector in here that looks at the distance and then decides to show less strands based on that motion. Now if I just say make that 0, it's not going to care about it anymore, right? So let's see the difference. If you guys prefer this, let me know. If you don't want that and you're okay with the optimization features that are currently there, then yeah, let me know, because it runs super slow. We get 1 or 2 frames per second, and yeah, feel free to complain about that. But for me, I'm quite happy that it shows me something here. I'm quite happy to see this, and I don't mind a little build up. It's running good enough when I move these. Sometimes, yeah, the button is a bit sticky because it's stuck on a slow frame rate. So it's down at 3 or 4 frames per second. If I do that mouse wheel up to show more strands and I bring this up, eventually I'm going to get such a slow frame rate that the buttons, I need to hold the mouse button down. This is what I'm basically giving you guys right now. I want to make it better, right? This is based on my current knowledge of how to program these preview strands. It's basically drawing all these little lines. You know, if I hold this down, you can see these dashes, and all it's doing is just reducing these dashes into smaller ones. But you can see that's making it draw even more steps in each strand and hitting frame rate. And more strands you're trying to preview, the worse that gets. So if I ramp this right up and put the number of preview strands here all the way up as high as I can get, I mean, it's even struggling to do that. So it's 60 preview strands, and that's just in that set. Actually, that's just in set 1. I need to right click to unselect that. Now if I put that right up, I'm definitely gonna eventually get that right down to like 1 frame per second. There we go. So now the buttons are going to be really sticky, right? I clicked, but nothing's happening. I have to hold the button down, and I had to hold that down for one to about 1 second, right? So it really is a frame per second we're getting. But as I hold that button down, I'm reclaiming some of that frame rate back. Alright, I'm still only getting about 3 or 4 frames per second because it's still drawing a lot of strands. So that's where you want to switch to like fast mode. Just hold that down in fast mode and just work in this mode. Right, getting 8 or 9 frames per second. Still not perfect, but you know, it's giving you a real-time display roughly of what your hair strands are going to look like. So you can spend a bit of time on just 1 or 2 sets. I'm going to put this right down to 0 and just click on like these 2, and I'll get a lot of frame rate back. Look, that's really kind of spinning now, 30 odd frames per second. I can ramp that up even higher, put it into medium mode, and that's good enough to work in, right? Jumped into 20 frames per second here, but now I've got a good idea of what I want this set to look like. Do I want a bit of spacing, bit of waviness, some tapering here, some crazy variation, change the waviness ranges, a bit of thickness, some root thinning and tip thinning, some variation in the thickness, and maybe some of the fading towards the background colour. Right, it actually affects the mask as well. Okay, I'm just going to bring that variance down a bit. Right, and then I'm just going to click color map and render that. Okay, and that's basically what I'm getting there. So always the previewer is going to look different from the render anyway, because the previewer isn't going to show you all these strands. There's 97 strands in this set and 50 in that set. It already struggles to show what it's showing at the minute, you know, in a real-time way, because it's trying hard to show you something nice, right? There's no way you're going to get full frame rate from this. And eventually other software that uses this kind of, you know, showing you loads and loads of real-time strands, that it will have an optimized look to it, whether it's, you know, XGen or Hair and Fur or Fiber Mesh. It will have an optimized look to it until you render it, and that's just the way it is. So sorry this is turning into a little bit of a rant, but I've got a little bit of a giveaway for you guys. I've basically made my assets on Artstation 40% off via a code, and the code is 40frosty as far as I can remember. Let me just bring that up. So if I go here, right, and I minimize this. This is my Artstation store page, and there's all these goodies. We've got eye shaders, hair shader, pixel art stuff, hair strand designer, of course, which is top rated. Thanks for all the support and everything to make this the way it is. I'm working on a tool called Background Designer. Blip Paint's an old tool that I worked on to make nice, I don't know, art if you're a child, basically. This is some blood decal stuff, just some fun stuff for a game. Mostly prototyping, some head meshes, low poly business people with some animations. This is an icon pack, low poly flower pack, low poly world, loads of sprites based on these models. They're all kind of renders of different angles. This is just a little orc animated, nice placeholder, some reference images from London, some Unreal hands with some custom shaders for adding blood and tattoos, changing tones, uses the RGB masking system, and then there's this little free timer bar tool. So there's 40% off everything here, and I think you get extra percentage if you buy multiple things. So the code for that is 40frosty. Let me just double check that. I'll paste it in the description anyway, but I'll just double check what my seller profile says. Coupons. Okay, yeah, 40frosty. 40frosty. So if you're buying something, obviously I can't buy my own product, but once you add it to your basket, there'll be a coupon. Let me just jump onto the marketplace and pretend I'm buying something. Let's see. So let's go to top rated actually, so I can show you where I stand at the minute. Only need a few more reviews, guys, to reach a bit higher in this chart, but I'm already quite happy. I'm in the first page here in top row. So for example, this one, this is a really cool tool for doing hair curves, and I recommend this if you are using Maya and you need a solution that goes with Hair Strand Designer. This is perfect. I've heard a few people recommend this. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to the cart, and you can give a tipper in like that, proceed to cart, and it would be at this point you could enter a coupon code. So 40 FORTY is what you would put in there. Obviously it doesn't work with everybody's thing, but definitely works with my stuff. You'll see if I apply this, it won't say it's valid because it's only to that user. So if anyone's got any hair strand designer questions, feel free to post in the comments below. I want to hear any more sort of feedback on things. I've taken this quite far, and I've got some plans in the future for it. I don't know whether to stay in Game Maker because it's solid, and I'm making good progress in there on a kind of weekly to bi-weekly basis. Let me know if you don't like that feature where it's constantly getting rid of the strands. In fact, you've got the option of 2 anyway. If you go to my store, let's go marketplace, top rated, jump in here. Don't know if it will show you what files you get. What files? Doesn't show you what files you get, I think. Let's go all the way down the bottom. There's loads of stuff here. Yeah, it doesn't say. But if I go to I have to be a bit secret about this because there's some code stuff. Let me jump to this page and let's see, manage products. Edit product. Right, I can show you this. There's no data here. So basically this version here, this 1541, is that version where it optimizes based on mouse movement. This is very specific and you might not like it. So there's version 1.534 here as well. I recommend it. I recommend this windowed 1.534 one, right? I don't like the new feature, to be honest. I'm basically trying too hard to make a solution where it's not needed. A couple of people complaining about frame rate, and I'm kind of like, you know what, 99% of the people are quite happy with it. A couple of people don't like the algorithm overall, it's too uniform. That's fine as well. It was designed purely for more straightish hair, and it doesn't do really wild hair unless you really start playing around with these offsets and start to like vary them up per set, so you can actually play around with the amount in each set. I'm getting a little bit of lag from it, so I'll jump into fast mode. I don't like it to be too laggy. I think that's a bit better. I can use the mouse wheel down to just reduce what it's showing there. I just want to move these around. That's all I want to do, is just shuffle these up. Right, then I want to click on the mixer and really kind of change it a good bit. Click on mixer 2. Let's do some wild stuff. Mixer 3. And you can see how that really affects things. Right, and let's click that X up there. So there we go, we've got that, and now I can click on each set and drag them over the top of each other. Right, and that will give you a good bit of variation. Then just reduce the number of strands in that particular set. Let's put it into medium mode, get a better idea how that's looking. So it's looking a bit more wild, like you might expect something like XGen or anything like that to create something a bit more wild, right? Make sure to move all of these up to the right place. So up to the top there, number 2. So what I want to work on next is configuration, making some sort of config that records everything, any settings. Like when you restart this, it will ask if you want to load a previous file. A couple of people recommended that they skip that one click of the button, right? I don't know, I mean, for me, I think it's fine. You can say yes, just load it and whatever, but I'll make a config thing like always load previous if found, or never load previous, or always check if, you know, if there's a previous file. That's there, right? But then you would have to go back into config to change that again so that it would start searching. So I don't know, these things are put there as extra things. I'm starting to feel a little bit of feedback from that. So not all things kind of work out. So we've got here 310 strands to generate. I'm just going to click this last set. Let's set 10, is that right? Yep. And move it. And I think there's some strands in 11 as well, but it's hiding out here. And so you hover over here, you see the number, so that must be number 5. And we've got some wild bunches. Right, maybe I'll make it so you can multi-select as well. That might be a good feature. So maybe holding down Control or something. It'd be good to change multiple things in multiple sets. That could be cool. Maybe an extra algorithm that makes loops and twists down each strand, or even chooses a different bunch of alphas as it goes down. These are things I've been thinking about. I'm not too sure yet. I'm trying to watch that I don't affect the frame rate even more. That's the problem, that I'm starting to bottleneck a little bit here and worry about the frame rate. So you can see I can really kind of start playing around with that. Change the offset. Change the variation. Let's see what one's that one. Is that probably 7? Doesn't sit in the center too well. That's a little bug it needs fixed. Right, so there we've got like some really nice sets, and I'll just render those. Okay, a bug. That sometimes happens. Let's just boot it up again. That sometimes happens. Sometimes if you jump between the window and back again, it loses focus. Yeah, so this time it's fine. And that's just a bug to do with GameMaker, the SDK that I use. It's got some kind of texture management in the background called surfaces, and when you move the window around it kind of loses focus of those, but there we go, that's what it's gave us. There's also that new feature like multi-strand, so click on that. So yeah, if you jump between windows, that's why there's the non-windowed version is much more stable. I think it's something to do with it being windowed, it loses texture memory focus or something like this. That beyond my control. That looks quite nice, right? Now I'm going to muck around with the colors. I mean, this will give you an RGB mask anyway, based on the root and tip tones. But you can use this color if you're just settled here with what color that you want. Let's go for a darkish purple root. Make some variation between those, and the background color is also a handy one to have. Let's just change the value of that down a bit. Good idea to make the background color slightly darker than the variation tones or all the tones, so that it's got something to blend to. Let's change the root and tip. You can make those thinner or not. Change the range. I like the hairs to be quite thin. Okay, and then that's that done, and I'll click generate. So it's generating 310 strands. Doesn't take too long to generate, but once you're happy with how the color map looks, it's a good idea to save it then. I mean, it's already automatically saving in case it crashes, which it kind of does. I mean, most things crash, right? Maya crashes way more than this, so I can brag that. But you end up with these nice looking hairs. You know, these will work quite nice. And then you want to generate your normal map. If you want, you can take the color map out and generate the normal map any other way that you like. A good idea is to do a depth map pass and use that instead. It's got that more kind of black and white range, and it's in order of depth. But the normal map here kind of tries to do a decent job. You can click this blurred generated map a few times, so whatever map you're on, right, just click it a couple of times because it actually applies it as you hold the button down. and it will tend to sort of blur up a bit. I honestly don't like this normal map as much as the single stranded mode, because the single strand mode actually cheats a little bit and uses a little sprite that draws what looks like a normal map down itself, and I'm going to use some shader tricks that I've learned the last few months. That's one thing that I've been researching, is different shaders. That's why I've been making these tools on the side. I want to learn how these shaders work and use those instead, and even compute shaders, but that might mean jumping into Unity or Unreal Engine, where you can get it to process this data really quickly on the GPU. I don't think GameMaker's doing that at all under the hood. It's not doing any shader type computation. So, did that even... There we go. So yeah, there's a lot that I want to cover in the future, and moving on to Strand Designer 2 eventually when I get around to making it. I need to decide on what engine to use, so I'm tinkering a lot with Unreal and Unity and learning stuff, so things are really slow, and plus I'm waiting on Unreal Engine giving me a mega grant. So you can see this normal map looks kind of nicer, apart from it's missing the green channel. It's just dealing with the red and blue channel, which is kind of not accurate, but might work nice in a anisotropic effect, or maybe I'm just lying and that's not what happens. But that's something I do want to work on as well. But it works well enough. It works well enough. And now if you want, just get the depth map, generate that, and then take that out and generate your own normal map using NALD or bitmap to material or normal map online. Normal map online kind of does what it does in multi-strand mode, where it just analyzes this map, the grayscale value, but a good idea is to spit that one out and generate your own normal map from there. If you feel inclined to do that, you can even add a tiny bit of blur to that one. Right, so once you've got those maps, then you can do whatever you want. It's a good idea to export your maps all as one. Once you've done them all, export them this way. If you do it this way, sometimes in windowed mode it can make a crash because it's having to jump out of the window to the Windows dialog box, and it can interrupt the silly bug to do with texture memory, which is just beyond my control. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you enjoyed the 40% off. Feel free to share that around. Get yourself an Artstation account, because you'll earn commission through sharing that link to my store. And I hope you enjoy your Christmas, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.